Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, good evening, dear ones, and welcome to our reading and discussion of Swami Chaitanananda's book on the life of Holy Mother, Sri Sarada Devi, her divine play. Haima, our reader, will tell you what page we're on, for those of you who have the book and want to find the page. But before we begin, is there anything at all that anyone would like to bring up? Something from your own wisdom or experience, something from your knowledge of Holy Mother, or some concern or question you'd like to raise? All right, dear Haima.
Okay, Brother Shankara.
Please go ahead.
Sure. Good evening and namaste, everyone. We are on page 631, and the subheading is Fear and Anger. Although Holy Mother was a divine being, she experienced fear and anger like an ordinary person. Holy Mother was afraid of ghosts. One night in Udbodhan house, she asked one of her disciples, "Are you afraid of ghosts?" "We are children of the Divine Mother," he replied. "What can they do to us?" "But I am afraid of ghosts," said Holy Mother. "Yes, I know," the disciple responded. "You are frightened by your own goblins and imps." Imps.
Oh, my. What a really wonderful, frank, and witty statement.
Yes.
Please read that again, dear.
Yes.
From Holy Mother's statement.
"We are children of Divine Mother," he replied. "What can they do to us?" "But I'm afraid of ghosts," said Holy Mother. "Yes, I know," the disciple responded. "You are frightened by your own goblins and imps." Imps were referred to her troublesome relatives. Troublesome relatives that she had.
Right.
We all have those every now and then.
Yes, indeed.
Holy Mother laughed and said, "You are right, my child. They're terrible. They shrivel my innards and make them stick to my belly."
This was a lovely exchange between Mother and that disciple.
Holy Mother was also afraid of having surgery. While she was in Puri, she had an abscess on her foot, which a doctor lanced quickly without warning her. From then on, she avoided allopathic doctors and surgeons. Once in Udbodhan house, she was suffering from a toothache, and Saradananda brought a dentist to extract her tooth. Holy Mother hid when the dentist arrived. Golapma said to Saradananda, "The mother is afraid of any kind of surgery." Her system is not like ours. Is there no medicine to get rid of a Toothache? Saradananda replied, if the fearless mother is afraid, what can I do? Medicine cannot stop this kind of pain. I brought the dentist so that she would not have to suffer for long. We should not do this if the mother does not want it, said Golapma. Finally, Saradananda apologetically sent the dentist back, saying that they could not find Holy Mother. The whole house was thoroughly searched again. Finally, someone found Holy Mother lying under her cot, covered with a chadar. Her toothache slowly subsided. Sarala, later Bharati Prana, described the mother's fear of surgery. If anyone had any cut or wound, the mother would apply a coating of clay from Mother Simhavahini's temple. Once Yoginma had an abscess and the mother applied that clay to it. After some days, when she heard that the wound needed surgery, she was concerned. She exclaimed, "Oh, Yogin, I hear the doctor is going to cut your abscess. What will happen? It is strange that Simhavahini's clay did not cure it." "My lord, what will happen? Is surgery necessary?" It was unbearable for the mother to see other people in pain.
Repeat that, please.
Yes, it was unbearable for the mother to see other people in pain.
So know that this did not cease with her leaving the body. We may have to bring it to her attention. So many children she has. But if we are in pain, we have every right, and she would want us to bring it to her attention so that she can be of service to us. Please believe me when I say this. Okay?
It was unbearable for the mother to see other people in pain. During Yoginma's operation, the mother went to the shrine and began to repeat her mantra. When the surgery was over, I gave the news to the mother and she was relieved. She asked, "Is it done? Is Yogin well? Did she suffer from pain?" Then she went to Yoginma, caressed her head, and inquired, "Is it too painful, my dear? How are you now?" The mother was very angry when the Bankura police arrested a young woman named Sindhubala who was pregnant, considering her to be a political suspect. On another occasion, Holy Mother lost her temper when she saw from the balcony of Udbodhan that a man was beating and kicking his wife in the slum area. Jewelry and fancy clothes may enhance a young woman's beauty temporarily, but modesty and purity keep her beauty alive forever. I want to read this one more time, Brother Shankara. Jewelry and fancy clothes may enhance a young woman's beauty temporarily, but modesty and purity keep her beauty alive forever. Holy Mother was the embodiment of modesty. According to the custom for conservative Hindu and Muslim Indian women at the time, she wore a veil over her face in front of most male disciples and visitors, even the master's disciples. Swami Ishananda recalled, sometime in the spring of 1919, the mother was at Jairambati. One noon, Radhu, Maku, and Nalini were talking boisterously and acting shamelessly. The mother said to her nieces, "What are you doing? Don't you have any sense of decency and respect? Women should not behave immodestly. They need to be careful in their bearing and maintain self respect. There is a saying, if a woman's cloth is above her knees, she is as good as naked, though she's wearing a sari 5 yards long. Women must maintain their modesty and dignity. Then one of the nieces spoke out. Aunt, the master said, one does not succeed so long as one has these three: shame, hatred, and fear. Immediately the mother said, no, that's not so. The master said that to those who were intoxicated with God. I say that it is necessary to have a sense of shame, hatred, and fear, especially for women.
That's an interesting observation.
It is truly.
Read what the niece said, and then how mother replied again, please.
Okay, sure, I will. Sometime in the spring of 1919, the mother was at Jairambati. One noon, Radu, Baku, and Nalini were talking boisterously and acting shamelessly. The mother said to her nieces, what are you doing? Don't you have any sense of decency and respect? Women should not behave immodestly. They need to be careful in their bearing and maintain self-respect. There is a saying, if a woman's cloth is above her knees, she's as good as naked, though she's wearing a sari 5 yards long. Women must maintain their modesty and dignity. Then one of the nieces spoke out. Aunt, the master said, one does not succeed so long as one has these three: shame, hatred, and fear. Immediately the mother said, no, that's not so. The master said that to those who were intoxicated with God. I say that it is necessary to have a sense of shame, hatred, and fear, especially for women.
Now, are there any questions or comments about this from anyone? This is a very, very important point.
Under what context, Brother Shankara, she is saying that it's necessary to have a sense of shame, hatred, and fear? Is it for
As
the
long as one has a sense of I-ness.
Okay, that's what she
As
means. That
long
makes
as
sense.
one, notice she made a differentiation.
Yes,
The master said to that those who were intoxicated with God, they had lost their sense of I-ness.
that makes
For
sense.
them, there could be no shame, hatred, or fear.
Right.
As long as one retains I consciousness, one has to have some sense of these three. Now, that doesn't mean you allow them to dominate your life, or that you project these onto others. It's about you.
Perfect. It makes
Sense of
perfect
shame.
sense now. Yes, thank you.
And this business of modesty and dignity. It is as long as one has this sense of I consciousness, there must be, we must not do what is shameful.
Mhm.
We must, in the context of our mental awareness, that is to say, that which is not our witness awareness or the Atman, we need to have a kind of hatred for those things that would drag us down.
makes sense.
And there needs to be a healthy apprehension, fear for those things that will harm us, those people and those things that will harm us. Otherwise, we're being naive and will be too easily taken advantage of. And these days, with every kind of person coming at you through the email and through the texts and through phone calls and so on, if you're not apprehensive about who it is that is trying to get your attention and what they're trying to do, you will be taken advantage of. So all these things are necessary. When you are in that state of witness awareness, which comes to us in the beginning during concentration and meditation, then these things are irrelevant to us. But when we return to our sense of I consciousness and believe ourselves to be the doer and so on, then we must have these aspects must be there. Any comments or questions from anyone else?
So how does somebody have this fear of this without that, like, being fearful towards being fearful towards people in a way that doesn't lead to hatred, or something in a way that's not bad for your spiritual being?
In the beginning, the study of spirituality, the art of spirituality, is something that you pursue apart from the world. When you're in the world, you have to let those parts of you that are designed to protect you do their job. Now, that doesn't mean you hate other people. That's not the point. You hate that which is trying to draw you away from your spiritual life. But it isn't the kind of hatred that you would feel toward someone who you felt was that you were jealous of, or something like that, that they had taken a relationship from you, that kind of thing. It's a fine line to walk. There is no two ways about it. And so we do have to be careful about being immoderate in any way. But until we abide in the witness consciousness, we need to have this sense that there are things that are shameful that we can do. It's not a question of being cosmically bad and wrong. It's just a question of, if we behave in that way, it leads us away from our spiritual practice. The same thing with hatred of those things that will drag us down. And being legitimately apprehensive of those people who will try to take advantage of us. Does it answer the question, Aaron? Or is there more?
Yes, that answers it. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, Chaitanya had the whole page explaining on those topics. Whatever you said is right.
Very good. Are we about to get to that, or was it in a
Yes.
footnote?
No, we are going to get to that.
Oh, good. Okay. I didn't know that. I hadn't read ahead. Okay.
Okay. Ramakrishna's and Holy Mother's teachings are not contradictory. Rather, they are complementary. Ramakrishna's advice is for those who are already established on the divine plane, and Holy Mother's instructions are for those who are working towards that state. People are like saplings, which need a fence to protect them. Otherwise, cows will eat them. But big trees do not need any fence. Good and evil cannot touch illumined souls because they transcend the pairs of opposites. But those who are seekers of God and have started their spiritual journey should discipline themselves and be careful. Can I read this one more time, Brother Shankara?
Please read it and read it slowly
Yes.
and with as much meaning as you can bring to it, dear.
Sure.
For starting from the Ramakrishna's.
Ramakrishna's. Yes. Sure, Brother Shankara. Ramakrishna's and Holy Mother's teachings are not contradictory. Rather, they are complementary. Ramakrishna's advice is for those who are already established on the divine plane, and Holy Mother's instructions are for those who are working towards that state. People are like saplings, which need a fence to protect them. Otherwise, calves will eat them. But big trees do not need any fence. Good and evil cannot touch illumined souls because they transcend the pairs of opposites. But those who are seekers of God and have started their spiritual journey should discipline themselves and be careful. Great advice.
Anything from anyone about what Jaitanananda just said, which was very eloquently put.
Very, very profound.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
what is the difference between the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother? If at all there is any difference.
Well, we just read it.
Exactly.
We just read it. The master's instructions were for those who are already established in
On the divine plane.
The Swami says the divine plane. I'll translate that into more ordinary language, that you're abiding in the witness consciousness, that you have united your awareness with the pure consciousness of the Atman and are abiding there. Now, you don't have to be fully illumined for that to be the case. But the Swami says, Mother's instructions are for those who are working their way toward that state. So they don't contradict one another. They are, as the Swami said, complementary. As we still are in a state of I consciousness, where we think ourselves to be the doer, we must be responsible for our actions. As long as we think of ourselves as the doer, we must be responsible for our actions. Once we have united our awareness with the pure consciousness of the Atman, and we understand that we are not the doer, that all that is happening in our presence is simply that which arises and passes away within Maya, then these things are not relevant to us. We will be in that state, whereas the Master said, like an expert singer, you cannot hit a wrong note. But on the other hand, he also said that even the best singer cannot keep her voice always on the highest note. So we return, even if we have this, we are abiding in this witness awareness, we return to ordinary consciousness in order to do our duties and live the prarabdha karma that brought us to this state of being. But we're no longer confused about what's what. We're no longer deluded by the egoism of thinking that I am the doer. So this is where the line of demarcation, if you will, between what the Master said and what the Mother said. Does that get it for you, Sham?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now don't ever feel that just because I've said something, you have to say, oh, it's fine. If there is a follow-up, if there is still a concern, don't be at all concerned. Don't be at all worried about continuing the conversation in that direction. I mean, the answers given from here are what arises and is given forth. But they're not dogma, and they're not meant to be the last word. So if there is ever anything more, don't hesitate to bring it up.
No, thank you.
Anything else from anyone? Okay, please go ahead.
Do you want me to read one more time that paragraph, which was so profound?
Well, why not?
Okay. Ramakrishna's and Holy Mother's teachings are not contradictory. Rather, they are complementary. Ramakrishna's advice is for those who are already established on the divine plane. And Holy Mother's instructions are for those who are working towards that state. People are like saplings, which need a fence to protect them. Otherwise, cows will eat them. But big trees do not need any fence. Good and evil cannot touch illumined souls because they transcend the pairs of opposites. But those who are seekers of God and have started their spiritual journey should discipline themselves and be careful. It seems that the Mother meant that a woman must protect her character and dignity by all means. This is also applicable to men. Both men and women should be modest, avoid evil company, and be careful about losing their purity or chastity. No one respects an immoral, shameless person. Holy Mother recalled, Lakshmi used to imitate the singers of the day, singing and dancing before the Master, displaying all their gestures. Once the Master said to me, that is her mood. Be careful that you do not lose your modesty by trying to follow her example. In Ramayana, when Ravana kidnapped Sita, and tried to tempt her, she said, "You are a sinner. I hate you. You may kill me, but my mind will never think of any other person than Rama."
Please repeat that.
Yes, sure. In Ramayana, when Ravana kidnapped Sita and tried to tempt her, she said, "You are a sinner. I hate you. You may kill me, but my mind will never think of any other person than Rama."
Is there anyone who doesn't know this story from the Ramayana? What happened and what is being commented on here? Ravana was the demon king of Lanka, now Sri Lanka. He hated righteousness and he hated Rama. So his sister said to him, "If you want to shame Rama, steal and debase his wife, Sita, this paragon of purity, Sita." So Ravana did this. He contrived to get her out of Rama's protection and kidnap her and take her back to Lanka. And then he tried to debase her. And this is what she said: "You may kill me, but my mind will never think of any other person than Rama." Now, this is a great instruction for us. The world may tempt us. The world may seem like it's going to kill us. But if we are to move away from the I consciousness to the thou consciousness, we must model ourselves after Sita. Not must in the sense of dogma, but just if that's what you want, then this is what is going to be required. You must not think of anyone but your chosen ideal, because the world will threaten us, and we can be legitimately, completely in the way that Sita was, say absolutely not. Any comments or questions?
I think Ramanasura is a prime example for the current world too, Brother Shankara, in some forms.
Yes.
The things that are happening in the world, evil never prevail. At some point, Dharma will rise above, and it will happen someday. Hoping.
Kalki is coming.
Exactly.
The blazing sword is going before, and
exactly,
Kalki
I
is
believe.
coming as the.
Kalika is
But
there.
this does not mean that we understand what's going to happen,
Sure.
and it may not all be pleasant, as the Chandi points out, as the Devi Mahatmyam points out. When the asuras are taken down, things get pretty remarkably explosive.
We will have some destruction, but at the end, Dharma will prevail.
And if we remember, Lanka, the capital of Ravana's kingdom, Lanka was completely destroyed.
Burned. It was completely burned.
Yes.
Yes.
In those days, of course, they built everything of wood, practically everything. Particularly on a place like Lanka where there's so much wood. Anything else, dears? Any of you who have not read the Ramayana
Beautiful story.
It's highly recommended. Valmiki's Ramayana is the one that is put forward by the Ramakrishna order. There are many versions of the Ramayana. It's Valmiki's that is, as I say, translated and put forward by the order. So that's the one that is known here.
You're right, Shankaraji. That's why it says, Ramayana follow the Rama's footsteps. Bhagavatam listen to Krishna's teachings.
Yes.
Yes, truly. Agree with you.
Okay. Please
Okay.
go ahead, dear.
Okay, let me just start again. In the Ramayana, when Ravana kidnapped Sita and tried to tempt her, she said, "You are a sinner. I hate you. You may kill me, but my mind will never think of any other person than Rama." Behind this kind of hatred, there is moral strength and courage. Similarly, in the Mahabharata, the unrighteous Dushasana tried to humiliate Draupadi by forcefully taking off her sari in the court of the Kauravas. Draupadi prayed to Krishna for help. Krishna then supplied an infinite length of fabric for her sari to protect her modesty.
Isn't that interesting? This is
It's
a very
beautiful.
interesting story. What he asks her, what Krishna asks her, have you ever given away any of your cloth so to be of use to another person? And Draupadi says, "Oh yes, I did this." At which point Krishna makes her sari infinitely long. They can pull on it and pull on it and pull on it until the end of time. It will not. She will not be reduced to nakedness and shame. And it's one of those things where there is this kind of wry humor in this incident. This demon person wants to defile her,
Yes.
and Sri Krishna just makes it impossible. It's fun and kind of funny.
And this is also a great example for divine intervention.
Oh
And
yeah.
we are solely praying and asking for help. It's a great example.
Yes, indeed. Supplied an infinite length of fabric for her sari to protect her modesty.
I wish that would happen in today's world when so many women are being debased.
It does happen. To me, it does happen in some form, Krishna Kali. At one point, it does happen. Divine will intervene. That's my belief, and it happened to me so many times.
Krishna Kali, you voiced this earnestly and sincerely. Now, make it your daily prayer. Think of those women who are being exploited, the sex trade, and so on. Since this touches your heart and concerns you, don't let that just slip away. Make it your daily prayer. Make it your daily prayer to Mother and the Master. Don't think that your prayers do not make a difference. Swami Prabhavananda was asked, "Swami, does it really make any difference when you pray? Is there any effect?" And his answer was so telling. What? Do you think you are separate? Of course it makes a difference. it seems to us that we are separate from those who suffer. We are not. Behind the screen of this Mahamaya is complete unity. When your heart calls out and cries out, Sri Krishna says, those who suffer the pain of others in their own heart, they are very dear to me. It's much more powerful when we pray for others than when we pray for ourselves. It is powerful enough when we pray for ourselves. But when we pray these intercessionary prayers, when we ask the Mother and Master, oh, whatever the words are that arise in your heart, but it needs to be done daily. It needs to be part of your spiritual practice. Any comment or question about that from anyone?
It's very true, Brother Shankara. Extremely true.
Anything else from anyone? Thank you, Haima.
I namaste everybody.
Namaste, Shailesh.
About this praying for others. I had this experience when COVID started. In New York, there were 1,000 people dying almost every day, I believe. And I was watching the news and it was so heartbreaking. And I think I shared this, but it was very, very difficult time for me. I used to watch, and those we are talking about summer of now 2020 or around that time. So I think I was instructed to chant the Mahamrutyunjay mantra and pray for all of them. And it was basically at night I had some kind of a uneasiness, some kind of a very bad experience, which went on in my mind because I was watching all this news and the suffering I could see. So I was specifically instructed to chant that mantra every day in the evening and pray for everybody. This was a very specific instruction I received in a dream, and I followed that for almost 2 or 3 months. And I'm telling you, it was very relieving to do that every single day in the evening. And because those news never stopped, for 3, 4 months, 5 months, we saw that. So I think what you said is right. Now I've forgotten, it's been 2 years now almost. But I think what you said is right. I think I need to practice that again and again.
May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be healthy. May all beings have peace of mind. Whatever words arise in your heart, if there's a mantra to chant, yes, if you're instructed to chant a mantra, by all means chant that mantra. You can find many mantras online if you want a mantra for that purpose. But it doesn't need a mantra. It is the sincerity of your heart. It is the sincerity of your wish that this suffering not be inflicted on others. All you need to do is hold them in mind and say, "Oh, Mother, oh, Master, may this not be inflicted on them. May they not suffer." Whatever words arise to you. But Shailesh is right. If you're instructed, if you have an inner instruction to say a mantra, there's a reason for that. So there's something special being imparted to you. And there will be a special power in that mantra that wouldn't be there if it was just chanted mechanically by someone else. So the suffering of the world is directly related to how each and every person in the world is behaving at that moment. When you change your behavior and become more auspicious, it changes the world just that much. As the Swami said, what, do you think you're separate? You are not separate. Anything else from anyone before we read on? Okay, please go ahead, dear.
Sure. I'm going back to a few lines. Similarly, in the Mahabharata, the unrighteous Dushasana tried to humiliate Draupadi by forcefully taking off her sari in the court of the Kauravas. Draupadi prayed to Krishna for help. Krishna then supplied an infinite length of fabric for her sari to protect her modesty. The chaste Draupadi's anger and hatred was partly responsible for the destruction of the Kuru dynasty. One should show anger and hatred if someone tries to destroy one's pure character, modesty, and spirituality. Beautiful.
Yes, please repeat that.
Yes. The chaste Draupadi's anger and hatred was partly responsible for the destruction of the Kuru dynasty. One should show anger and hatred if someone tries to destroy one's pure character, modesty, and spirituality.
So this is if someone quite deliberately, either out of misunderstanding, some well-meaningness, whatever, tries to stop you from pursuing the divine, the path toward the divine. You need not be reticent. You need not hang back and say, oh, well, I mustn't react. No, you can set your boundary, and you can set it fiercely. This far and no farther. And if they're offended, that is their issue. If they say, well, then I won't see you anymore, you can say, well, that's probably the best for me. If they threaten to withdraw their presence. So it's best to set your boundaries and not let people encroach, because your time is limited. And if you let other people waste your time or drag you around, we must never, ever be a doormat for others. It doesn't mean we don't respect the fact that they too are the divine person, but a divine person in a state of ignorance that is giving them a misguided way of thinking, therefore speaking and behaving. And so you can be fierce. Certainly you must be firm. You don't have to be angry unless they are persistent, because anger actually never really hurts the other person. but it does fire you up and make you more determined. And, rajas is not always a bad thing. Anything else from anyone? Okay, we've got 10 minutes left. Please read on, dear.
I just have one comment, Brother Shankara.
Yes.
It's okay to express anger and hatred as long as you don't go and retaliate against them or do some harm to them. It's okay to express your feelings. That's healthy. Expression is healthy. That means you're responding appropriately. You have an ability to respond. But as long as you don't go and choke their throat or do something bad what they did to you. So that's what I think she's telling, Chetananda is telling us.
Yes, absolutely.
One should show anger and hatred if someone tries to destroy one's pure character, modesty, and spirituality. Regarding fear, the mother did not mean fear of a robber, tiger, snake, or death. She meant fear of losing one's dignity, of scandal, and of public disgrace. About the mother's shyness, Sarada wrote, in Udbodan, during the mother's last illness, a monk came to see her. She was sleeping, and the monk began to massage her feet. There was no veil over the mother's head at that time. After the monk left, the mother scolded me, saying, there was no veil over my head. Why did you not arrange it? Am I dead? I am still alive, and you're looking after me in this way.
So
She was a very traditional person.
not only that, but she
Very
was
traditional.
concerned that Sarla be alert.
Sure,
She was, the instruction was to Sarla. Sarla, be alert, be present. This monk came in.
That's right.
All you had to do was put the veil over my face, but you ignored it. You didn't add 1 and 1 and get 2. You just sat and watched it happen. So her instruction was to Sarla. Hey, be present. See what's happening. React appropriately. And this is an admonition to all of us at all times. Be present. What is important in this moment? And as we do that, our ability to concentrate and our ability to focus increases. This is one of the major practices of karma yoga, is being present and offering every action, every thought, everything to the divine presence. If we do that, as Krishna says, we become more efficient. Now, efficient is a very powerful word. Sarla was not efficient in this case. And that's why the mother scolded her. Anything at all from anyone about those thoughts?
Brother Shankara, my mother was at a different plane. So at her plane, divine plane, shame shouldn't matter. She said it mainly for Sarla, right?
No, she was, as Haima pointed out, she was a very traditional person.
Very traditional.
She lived on a different plane,
Different
no
times.
doubt, but she also lived as an ordinary person in a human body. And she abided by the conventions and customs of her time.
Yes.
So she meant what she said, but the scolding was not because she felt that she had been defiled. No, that wasn't it. She just said to Sarala, you know who I am. Am I dead? You know who I am. I would cover my, if I weren't sick and in this way, I would have pulled the veil over my own face. You're taking care of me and you're taking care of me in this way? No. Be present. What is needed in the moment? What is auspicious in the moment? And you find, as the Swamis say, you can actually begin to anticipate what will be necessary in the coming moments. Because you're seeing clearly what is transpiring, what is unfolding. And you'll be able to see, this is going to be needed. And that you will do before it is actually necessary. This is explained in the Gita.
Thank you.
Yes, dear. Anything else? Okay, we've got just 4 minutes left.
We just have 4 minutes, right?
Well, is there any reason we shouldn't read on? Do you think, is there anything anyone wants to say or ask?
Brother Shankara, was a difference between anger and indignation? Indignation shouldn't be so bad, but I still feel that it gets confused for anger. Anger
Well,
may be negative, but I've seen very holy people also have a lot of anger. So is it bad?
there is no such thing, Krishna Kali, as always bad and always good. Indignation may lead to anger. If we become indignant about something that's happening and we express our indignation, this is inappropriate. This should not be happening. This is a boundary for me. You're crossing the boundary. Then if the person continues oblivious of what you've said, oblivious of your indignation, then you may light the fuse. And as Haima said, you're not intending to harm the person. You're simply intending to back them off. And yes, of course you'll see holy people get angry. Sometimes they do it quite deliberately. They allow themselves to become angry because they know from their perspective that it will do the person good. I mean, there are a couple of marks on my heart left by Swami Prabhavananda because I had done something ignorant and he reacted angrily. Now, I'll never forget those things, and I have made it my business not to cross that boundary again. Doesn't mean I've always succeeded, but by and large, yes, because the mark is there. It's not just a mental impression, it's a mark on the heart.
It works on good people, but the regular people, they don't take one mark. They take several marks before they get it.
Oh, Krishna Kali, why do you concern yourself about ordinary people? Don't concern yourself about ordinary people. There's nothing we can do about them.
I've got to live with them.
No, but don't concern yourself about them. You have to live with them as best you can.
Ignore?
Dear heart, you always go to the extreme. You condone, ignore. What did I say that says ignore? Don't ignore. Live with them, keeping your sense of yourself and not allowing them to encroach on you. not allowing them to distract you from what you know is important. Ordinary people, what is true of ordinary people? They are simply more ignorant. Now, is that a bad thing? No, it is simply a fact. But they will behave from their ignorance. There's no way for them to do otherwise. You are now less ignorant. That is a great grace that you have been given. So don't blame them for being ignorant. You too were more ignorant at one time. You will be less ignorant over time, and you will look back on your actions now and say, oh, how remarkably inappropriate I was from time to time. So it's not a question of ignoring. It's a question of simply understanding what these people are coming from and keeping, as the mother said, your integrity, your dignity, your modesty. Most importantly, your integrity and your dignity. If you keep those, then you don't have to worry about modesty and the others. They come in train. To thine own self be true, and it follows as the night the day, that you cannot be false to anyone. And you will transform the lives of people around you by behaving in that way without you ever having to say a word to them about the fact that they should be different. You just tell them this far and no farther. And no, it's not easy. But if you deal with them from your heart as the divine being in a state of greater ignorance, if you, in other words, see them as Sri Krishna tells us to see them in the Gita, then you will transform not only your own life, but to a degree that they don't understand their lives as well. Did all of that make sense, Krishna Kali?
It truly did. It truly did.
Okay. Anything else from anyone?
I
And
just
that
have
was a
a
very good question,
very good
Krishna
one.
Kali. I just decry your tendency to go to the extreme. Ignore. No, nothing. No, we cannot ignore. We have to interact. But we can do it from a self-determined position.
I just have one comment, Brother Shankara, about this anger stuff. It's if we continue to stay in anger, that's going to affect our sanity and spiritual progress too. We can't progress in spirituality. It's a big blocker. As long as we are agitated, anger all the time with that person or that community or anything, it's going to block our sanity. We're not going to improve spiritually or mentally or physically. It's going to affect our health. So we have to work that anger through right channels, either people like you or some other mentors or some other person.
And we have to just let it arise and pass away.
Exactly. Send compassionate communication, compassionate, that
Yeah.
helps. Compassionate counseling really helps.
If the other person is capable of hearing it, yes.
Yeah.
Compassionate communication.
Communication, just silently. Send
But when we hold on to anger, oh, it has nothing to do with the other person then.
no, it's going to
We're
poison
doing
us.
it because it makes us feel powerful. That's why people hold on to anger.
Down to it, exactly.
And have that they say that, oh, that's you want to be careful of that person. They're just always angry. They're doing it because it makes them feel powerful.
Feel powerful
And
ego.
and what can we have for that person? As you said, compassion. Oh, may they find a more productive and happier way of feeling powerful. And of course, the only way for that is to turn within.
Exactly. Turn within, don't let your ego step out and retaliate or anything. That's it. Thank you, Brother Shankara. I think I'll close it right here. we will catch up next Tuesday.
Yeah.
We'll it's
We'll
time.
start with the subhead, hunger and thirst.
Hunger and thirst.
Swami Dayananda used to say this: you are the cause and you are the solution. So most of the times that is how it works. Of course, it doesn't happen all the time. Most of the times that is the problem.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, Balakrishna, you're right. If we look to our own behavior, what is it that I'm doing that is producing this in this situation? Am I encroaching on this other person by the way I'm thinking, speaking, and acting? Anyway, dears, here we are. So glad you are all here with us this evening. Any final thought from anyone? All right. Om Hari Om. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Abir Moiti. O dearly beloved Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from this realm of endless noise and relentless delusion to thine abode of silence, serenity, clarity, and peace. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga.
Shankaraji?
Yes, dear.
I just wanted to ask, an acquaintance of mine sent an email to you for the Mantra Diksha when Swami Sarvadevananda comes.
Yes.
Do you think he has to come and see you before?
No, not at all.
Okay.
He'll be replied to in due course. Okay. There have been a lot of, quite honestly, Balakrishna, there have been a lot of health issues over the last 2 weeks. And so I've just been distracted, and I will get to these. Okay. There's still plenty of time, and he does not need to come and see me. Okay. All of these will be duly forwarded to Swami Sarvadevananda, and I will begin to build a calendar out of all of this. And you're right, I have not focused on it, and I will focus on it.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify this way. At least I can.
No, I understand, yes. And everyone will be taken care of. That okay. You may be sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And just tell him that for me, and yes, tell him that
I would. That's what yes.
That he'll hear from me in the next day or two.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for bringing it up, Balakrishna. And there are others, I think, Maria and so on, that have written to me. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Father and Mother. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Any final thought from anyone? All right, Tears.
Just that I have thoughts, good thoughts I'm sending to you, Gary.
Well, thank you, Beverly, and they're returned to you with much love and affection and admiration.
Thank you.
Talk with you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night, everyone.